All right, guys, here we are live. Nice to see everybody here. This is Kevin from the Men of Now. I wanted to do a Sunday stream like we normally do to follow up on a class and a stream we had a couple weeks ago on divorce. So this will be a good one that we can have an example of how to make sure or try to prevent divorce altogether, and how you take advice from the people around you with marriage. There's a lot of cliches out there. There's a lot of ways that you can get misconstrued. It's a nervous time for everybody. But the main thing is, for men, we are evolutionarily bestowed the responsibility to be the leadership in the relationship. And if we're not ready for that, then maybe we should get married. So I'm going to bring in some friends of mine. You all know them from the Men of Now. We've got,
what's going on, brother?
AKA the Hudsman. We got Josh, always known as Renegade Wingman. How you guys doing?
Doing good, man. This is a great discussion. I'm so glad that you shared this because, Dave Ramsey, I mean, that's the clip that we're going to be using. Dave Ramsey is, world renowned for some of his advice. And it's very interesting to find those moments where it's really, really bad advice. And dude, it was so funny. I was sitting with my girlfriend last night, reviewing the clip, and I didn't know she was even listening. And the first thing that she said was like, "That's really bad advice." I was like, "That's what the show is on."
He's a keeper. Yeah. And one thing I saw, this was from back in March, and I stopped listening to Ramsey a while back because I read his book several years ago, The Total Money Makeover, and it did inspire me to get debt free, which I did. Busting my ass for 3 years, modifying his system to my needs and what I could do. However, I noticed really quick that that's about all Ramsey brings to the table. When it comes to everything else that he acts like an expert on, he's just hired people that are smarter than him. And this is not shade. I'm not throwing disrespect to Dave Ramsey. He does a lot of good for a lot of people, but I should say he does a lot of good for a lot of sheep. And you get caught up in whatever somebody's that you look up to.
It's this. Stay in your lane.
Yeah,
he's an expert in finance, but maybe not in relationships and marriages.
Exactly. And he comes from a different time. Dave's a boomer, and they have a different mindset, and that I can empathize with. However, when we get in the clip later of the advice that he gives this young man, to me it was cringe, and it solidified the fact that Dave Ramsey helped me out where I needed help at that time. However, that's all I needed for. So what about you, Josh? Do you have any experience with Dave Ramsey? He's been around for a long time.
Yeah, he's been around. I come across quite a bit of different things, and I agree with you guys' sentiment that when it comes to like the finance side, for sure, I definitely think he's got a lot of really good stuff in there, and that's definitely, you can tell, like his strongest area of expertise. Mm-hmm. So, and it's, again, this is where he's got to start. So, I usually don't like to never want to throw shade at anybody or, talk down about anything. But when, you come across something where it's like, all right, that's just really, really bad advice. It's like, all right, you got to call it like what it is. And, I've given bad advice before in the past. Where I'm like, man, me from 10 years ago would give people the opposite advice of what I would have given somebody in that situation. Right. So, it's one of those times where it's you got to check yourself a little bit, but it's also a little bit surprising too, just because I was like, all right, you've got a lot of financial literacy here. So this particular bit of advice that you're giving to this guy, either you're just not you're just kind of on autopilot right now, or you're just really missing a lot in some important areas when it comes to talking about more relationship dynamics. So I was a little bit surprised that just the level of how bad the advice was. But as I always tell people, it's look, don't just take my word for it. Hear it for yourself, and then let's see what you guys think. But I think people will be kind of surprised about when they hear this particular clip we're going to reference.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Hi, Joey. Welcome to the Ramsey Show.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Sure. What's up?
So, fiance and I are getting married in about 3 months. We are looking to buy a house. I currently own a house. I own a duplex. Rent out one side, live on the other side. The amount that I make towards the mortgage is about $800. It's 2-bed, 1 bath on my side. We're looking at having kids pretty quickly on, so she kind of wants something bigger. Doesn't want to move into my place. So we're looking for a 3-bed, 2 bath, but with the housing market, what's done since I bought my place, and then the interest rates, our estimated monthly note would be about $3,600 a month. So she's very anti-debt, even less than her. But she's really making a push for it. I'd rather stay in my place until we have to upsize. Just looking for advice.
What's your duplex worth right now?
About $500,000.
Wow.
Are you talking about selling it to do this deal?
I'd rather not sell it.
I'd rather not have a $3,600 payment.
I know that's right.
Well, the payment on this duplex is $2,000.
No, you missed the point.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. The reason you have a $3,600 payment.
Go ahead and pause that. So one of the things I found interesting, he was saying, I'm making $800 on the mortgage. So what that kind of tells me, unless I'm misunderstanding real estate, does that tell me that with him owning that, he's making $800 off of the other person?
No. I think what it is like he said, the mortgage is $2,000, but he rents the one side out for $1,200, so he's only responsible for $800, which is why a lot of people buy duplexes, to do that. And some people can put them in the situation where they buy it for a certain amount and they rent one side out that covers all the mortgage. However, he's still doing great, especially in today's market. Right. I mean, look what he's talking about. $800 to $3,600. That's, let's go on to see how, like you said, I am surprised that Dave reacts the way he does. Watch this.
So you think it's a better idea to sell the duplex and look for?
You should not buy another house unless you do. So you only have 2 possible decisions. 1, sell the duplex and buy a house. 2, live in a duplex with an angry new wife.
Whew. Better to live on the corner of a roof than to be in a house with a nagging quarrel.
Woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord, you don't want that. Trust me.
So you don't think there's merit in me trying to talk her into to moving into here, giving that another try?
She said she doesn't want to do it.
Wait a minute. Do you really think that's smart, really? I mean, seriously.
I'm going to stop it right there because I think that's absolutely smart. That's the second time this young man said that he wants to stay in the duplex until they're ready to upsize. And I think there's absolutely merit in that. Do you guys disagree with that?
No, you're 100% correct. I mean, everything he's saying is like so smart. Like they want to. I don't know if he mentioned it right away or if he's about to in time. That they're planning on having kids almost immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't know what those expenses look like. So, like, why would you take on a higher expense living situation when you don't know what future expenses are going to look like, knowing that they're going to increase? It's just like a train off the rails. Like you literally have no idea what's going to happen next, but saddle up.
Well, it's a train off the rails by a factor of 4. Because I mean, if you're going from $800 a month to $3,600, that's literally 4x. So
over 4x. And and even Ramsey himself teaches your house payment shouldn't be more than a quarter of your income, and that's coming up of what they make a year. Watch this.
See, from a relational standpoint.
I mean, it's not a bad place. I get where she's coming from, though. It's not our own place.
And
it's a bachelor pad. She's not moving in, dude.
She wants a fresh start. She wants a place with you.
She wants a place that doesn't have those smells.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sell it, man.
And you can
happy wife, happy life. Sell your duplex.
There it is. Happy wife, happy life. Why has that become the norm? What do you guys think about that?
Well, I mean, I think what it is that it's just a very comforting and easy, almost at this point, like kind of meme to go to, right? Where you can just say, hey, here's your just kind of one saying that will blanket statement, kind of covers a broad multitude of different things. Everything's good and okay. Great. Let's wrap up and move on to the next thing. So, from an advice perspective, it almost feels a little bit dismissive, which I think, does this poor guy here disservice. So, I mean, hopefully maybe Joey at some point finds this video and can watch this to get some alternative perspective.
Yeah. I was going to get to that later, but I mean, it's a cute little rhyme. I get that. Happy wife, happy life. But what about the man? So he sacrifices his happiness, his well-being, his anxiety to make Princess happy. And then now we got the new ones, Happy King, Happy Kingdom. That's a new one for the red pill out there that are on the other side of the blue, totally nothing in the middle. But what about the couple? I even try to do this, guys. I try to find catchy things that rhyme with couple. There's not much, but struggle was one of them. A happy couple can deal with struggle a lot better than just making a wife happy or a king happy on his kingdom.
Yeah, relationships really are two ways. It's not one-sided, and both of those statements are both one-sided. What I find very interesting here is, we had that talk a couple of weeks ago on adversity and dealing with adversity. Now, what is occurring here is he's essentially being given the advice, hey, you're getting married. I don't know if it's for the first time. It sounds like it's for the first time. You're getting married. You're about to have kids. You're faced with potentially selling your house and buying a new one. So those are a bunch of different things that he has to deal with, a bunch of different obstacles, activities, whatever, that need to occur. And currently, he may not be able to handle juggling all of those things at once. He doesn't know that.
That pressure in the beginning of a marriage is going to be hard enough because I don't know. They didn't get enough information. And I'm surprised because they didn't get as much information as they normally do.
Right. And
I don't know how old this kid is, but I say kid, but he sounds like he's in his early 20s, maybe mid 20s. And I want to think that they maybe come from more of a religious background, maybe Christian background, because they obviously don't live together already before they're getting married. And that's very unique in today's society, especially in the West. I've known people that lived together for 2 years.
The point that I just really wanted to drive home is essentially he's dealing with his current struggles of life, and then he's going to be getting married and having a kid. And why are we adding more to the plate? He may not be able to handle all of those different things at once, but we're telling him, hey, if there's a couple different versions of reality, one version could be she moves into the duplex and you guys have a child. And then these other versions adding on like the other, the new house and new mortgage, higher mortgage, like that's, you're trying to make this guy juggle more plates than he can spin. Like it's just it's too much at once. And I feel like that's what they're completely missing here. It's like, just make her happy. And if you become overwhelmed, which is going to affect how you act in that relationship, like, dude, I don't know about you, but like when I'm like way overstressed, I'm not the most fun person to be around. And I'm not as good to my girlfriend as I normally am, just because I got too much going on and my fuse is shorter.
Yeah, exactly. And this young man is young. You can tell by his voice. He might be a young sounding 40-year-old. I doubt that. I remember how emotionally aware I was at 25 years old as compared to I am now. That would make me a terrible husband to have that much pressure put on me, especially when you have a good setup. You can almost hear the stress in this young man's voice, and they're having none of it. And I don't know who. I think her name is Jade, the new one, his little minion sitting next to him. The one thing about Ramsey's minions, they will never disagree with him. So I don't know who she is. She must be new, but she is not this whole better to live on the corner of a roof than to live with an unhappy wife. I've never heard that, but that was the first thing that came out.
But it's from the Bible. Like it's then with a quarrelsome wife. And I mean, it essentially, I mean, there's a couple different ways you can interpret it, but essentially, yeah, you don't want to be with a nagging wife. But that speaks to the character. Like it almost sounds like to me that she can tell from his voice and how the situation is being approached that maybe they shouldn't get married. Like if the wife can't compromise, then is this really a right decision? But then Ramsey ends up taking full force, and then she turns to go along with them.
Yeah. She might have been trying to, like, you know, low key wink, wink, get out, bro.
Yeah. I just, you know, look, and to add to your point, Huds, don't break up. That's not what I would recommend. But maybe put off the marriage for a little while till you grow up a little bit and both can come to a better compromise than what you have on your plate right now. It shouldn't be one or the other.
Yeah, I almost think, like, based exactly what you're saying. I don't know if they're religious, but I think the best first step is, hey, how about before we even get married, let's give this a test run. And how about you move into the duplex and see how you like it?
Yeah. We only got a few, like one more minute left on the clip. Let's go ahead and finish that up, and then we'll finish with dialogue.
Get your property where your payment is no more than a fourth of your take-home pay, household income on a fourth of your take-home pay.
15-year fixed.
15-year fixed. No more than that.
And
if that's not 36, then don't buy a house. Then don't buy a house.
What are you? Wait a minute. What are you pricing out? Because you're going to sell what will you take home after you sell this duplex?
How much equity have you got?
I got about $140,000 in equity.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. What's your household income? What's your income? What's her income?
Our combined incomes are going to be about 130.
Okay. And listen, I've been to Boise. You're looking in the wrong neighborhood, so. Okay.
Yeah, and that's where I want to stop it, guys, because he goes on a little bit more, but it's still some of the same rant of when you get married, you have to buy. If your wife says you do it, you have to do it. So, and there may have been a time when that worked, but I don't think it works anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's.
Did you hear what he said when he said, "How much do you make? How much does she make?" He didn't elaborate on that. He said combined they'll make 130. I'm pretty sure that's before taxes. So
he also said it that way. If you caught that, he said it that way because he's embarrassed with how much he makes. He thinks that he can make more.
And you know what? You might be onto something there, Huds. Maybe she makes more. Maybe he's not done with school, and maybe see, that's something we don't know. That's a variable that could be important. We don't know if it's 50-50. That would be 65 each. We don't know if it's 70-30 him, 60-40 her. That might be something that puts her in the position to say that I want this new house. However, I would lean towards the fact that maybe let's do 60-40 him. So even if she's paying 40% of it right now, alluding to what you said earlier, Huds, they said they were going to start having kids right away. Okay. So do you expect her to work full-time to full term? Because I wouldn't. As soon as that baby started showing, I would want my wife to be home, off her feet, reading all the books she could about how to take care of a newborn. So that would be 4 months into the pregnancy that I wouldn't want her working. Do you guys feel the same way?
I don't know about 4 months. Maybe can go a little longer, like more like 6 or 7. But yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's what is lost here. And that's kind of the advice he was looking for, is like, she wants to do this. And you know what? I do this with my partner all the time. Like if she wants to go ahead and do something, I need a plan first. So map out the expenses, how things are going to change. And then if it makes sense, we do it. If not, don't come to me with this, like if it's woo-wah, whatever, like we can talk about it, but I need a plan. And it sounds like right here, there's no plan. So he's going to over quadruple the amount that needs to be paid for living expenses. And then he's going to lose the income from her when she gets pregnant. Like, what are we doing here? Logically, it makes no sense. Why would you ramp up expenses knowing that you're going to ramp up expenses? It's like we're just ramping up every expense we can at this moment.
Well, you just take money and light it on fire, right? That's a fun thing to do.
That's
right?
what it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's something I'm going to allude to later on. But, when we did our divorce class a couple weeks ago, what was number 2? Financial strain is the number 2 reason for divorce. And the numbers don't lie, guys. 80% of women, or 80% of divorces are initiated by the woman. 70%. And then when you add in the college educated women, that's 90%. Do the average on that. It's very simple. It's 80% of divorces in America, which is almost at 3 out of 5 marriages under divorce are initiated by the women. So how we're, the financial strain that comes with that, on top of the communication issues and the unrealistic expectations, a man has enough pressure to begin with.
Well, I think like the biggest telltale from the, from the perspective of the situation is that the advice, right, that's just being given seems a little bit more like dismissive in a lot of cases. So that's how it's bad advice. That's how you can spot like, okay, clearly this guy doesn't have like my best interests really at heart. It's more of just like, I'm asking him a question. It seems like I'm annoying him and he's just telling me something, so I'll go away. Right. So that's something to like pay attention to, is like when you're asking and seeking somebody for advice, are they actually interactive in trying to figure out what your solution is? Or are they just like, okay, like one extra detail, maybe not another. No, like, stop being dumb. Just do this, right? So that's how you can really spot some bad advice, is if it's not really being given from a more authentic or at least introspective type of line of questioning to really dive into, hey, how does this really help with your situation or scenario?
Yeah, that's a great point, that maybe he just didn't really have the words to say, or he didn't want to get to, maybe he was pressed on time, or however they do it. But yeah, I didn't notice that, Josh, and I've watched this clip several times, that it was just it was very dismissive of that. Oh, well, she wants a new place, we'll buy her a new place, buddy. Happy wife, happy life. Okay, next. That might have been what was going on Ramsey's end, but you could tell. I mean, the kid knows what he wants to do, and if he ever sees this, probably won't. But I don't mean that in a bad way. But you're far younger than I am. He's so smart. I mean, he's got a good head on his shoulders. He didn't go out and buy the $500,000 house to begin with. He went out and bought a duplex so he could rent one side out, and he's probably looking at keeping that house for the rest of his life and get it paid off, and then have 2 rental properties along with 4 more.
That's what didn't make any sense to me, is like, you want to accumulate these rental properties. Like, if you're in real estate, like, this is like, starting with the duplex is one of the best ways to go. And his advice is, sell this money-making asset.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. And go into even more debt. So I want to run a scenario by you guys. Dave Ramsey's been around a long time. He has built a massive amount of wealth. First with his book, he talked a lot about how he had to file bankruptcy because he went too hard, too fast with debt, and went bankrupt in his early 20s. But rose from the ashes, which we always encourage at the Men of Now, and we're always here for you to help you do that, because a lot of times we burn up. But do you guys think that when certain people, or some people, I shouldn't say certain, I don't even know how to word that, when people reach a wealth that is in a world above not even the average person, even the upper class, where money is not an object for anything anymore, you kind of lose sight of basic reality. Mm-hmm. And I'll give an example on that. Bill Gates, computer nerd that built Microsoft, 35 years ago, invented Microsoft, had to struggle, go through it. He's been the richest man in the world, probably more than I've got fingers and toes, up and out. But would never have to. I remember an economics class I did in junior college. We did a study. If he dropped 100 at this time, this was back in the early 2000s. If he dropped $100 bill out of his pocket, it wasn't worth his time to pick it up, because by the time he reached down, picked it up, put it back in his pocket, he'd already made 300. So, and I'm not saying that Ramsey's on that level, but he is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So, do you really want to go to a basic question on starting your life to a person like that? Because Bill Gates now is so delusional that he thinks that he is smart enough to educate people on how to eat and what they should eat, being a computer nerd from, I don't even know where he's from. And he's buying up farmland that used to cultivate meat and vegetables, you know, to almost in a psycho way influence that of how he wants to eat. Do y'all think that maybe that happens to people when they reach a certain level in life monetarily?
Oh, it definitely happens. Like, maybe not, you know, I'm not going to use necessarily the money example right now. I do remember that thing about Bill Gates. I learned that in school too. That whole thing was funny, like when you think about it, breaking down the numbers wise. But I struggle with it myself. As I continue to grow in my life, like doing the dating coaching and then seeing my own relationships flourish. Sometimes it's difficult to have to dumb it down and go to somebody who's literally at ground zero. And so I can understand some of the frustrations that come where you want to be talking about higher level things. Like, for example, like we can talk pickup artistry. So PUA, like just getting laid. That stuff's it's easy for me to teach you how to get laid. But those aren't the problems I want to talk about anymore. I'd rather talk with somebody who's really struggling in their relationship that they've been in for a little while. They don't know exactly how to continue to move things forward in a healthy manner. Like, I want to talk about those types of things. I don't want to talk about you getting laid for the first time or losing your virginity. I can help you with that. I can definitely do it. But there's almost like a level of boredom that comes with having to dumb it down to the basics. And I think that may be where some of his frustration or the dismissiveness lied in his response to that question.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say a lot of it depends on like the person, because I've spent a lot of time with a lot of folks, and very recently spent a lot of time with a lot of folks out in Dubai with amounts of capital that other nations are literally like trying to like shoot at bullets at each other to find. So yeah, definitely it can happen with some individuals. Others, it's hard from our perspective, not at that level, to really see like where they're thinking. So like the Bill Gates example, I personally don't think Bill Gates is actually like delusional. I think he's actually like very, very calculated, very focused. It's just from his perspective and his point of view, humanity, like a lot of things, is kind of an equation to be solved. And so if you balance it out this way, okay, great. Now we get the solution to this equation for whatever problem. And yeah, it may come off as like being like, you know, callous or delusional or unplugged. But when you're at that certain level where again, you have enough capital, resources, influence, and are plugged in to actually affect a lot of significant change in a lot of different ways, you start thinking in terms of certain calculations rather than at more of the, you know, ground floor level, like, hey, how's your day doing, right? So I learned this from a friend of mine who was a marketer. And so he worked for a social media company. And he was explaining where, you know, everyone's like, oh my God, like, you know, Facebook, they're stealing all our data and everything. And he's like, well, yeah, but he's like, we're not doing it for the reasons everyone's afraid of. It's like, I don't care about, you know, the Hudsman as the Hudsman. I care about the Hudsman as a white male from age 20 to 45 that lives in the eastern half of the United States. That's what I care about, is the demographic he represents, not necessarily who he is as an individual. So
yeah, I can agree with that.
So yeah, that's where
a great point.
Yeah, so that's where things get really, really interesting. And that's where it's also too, you know, a little bit of that dissociation can definitely happen for sure. Because again, the individual does get lost in that shuffle. So that's why it's easy to say, well, we do this, this, and this, and then it's better overall. But there is always going to be an associated cost with that. And so, it's a really hard, tricky balancing act. And I wish I had an answer for it, but I just, I don't.
Yeah. I was just trying to come up with reasons why Ramsey would have reacted the way he did, because I thought he would have asked more questions.
Yeah.
And I thought that he would have been more on, let's see how we can make the marriage work in the beginning, because I think hopefully the young man went with his gut, because you could tell what his gut was. The advice that I would give him if I would have a chance to speak to this man, this was back in March, and now it's December. He said a couple months. So hopefully things didn't go south. I would say I think this is the way he was conveying his feelings and his thoughts to his soon-to-be bride. I think if he would probably have better communication skills on why he wanted to live in the duplex for maybe the first 2 years to save money to buy the big house after that and to have the kids, that might have been where the disconnect was. Because we don't know.
I think the question that, and this is the advice to this young man, probably will never hear it, but again, this is the advice that he needs. The way that you respond to your wife when she wants to quadruple, if not more, your expenses and kind of like lead you to the slaughter right here, unless you can step up to the plate and make more money and cover it, but it's going to be very stressful nonetheless. The best question to ask is, all right, I already have a house and it's also a money-making asset because it's a duplex. Yes, we can sell that and get a much larger, nicer house, but is that a nice to have or is it a need to have?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like to me, from her perspective, this is a nice to have. She would want more, or she envisioned more for her life. Like when she gets married and has kids, that she had a larger house. So it sounds like it's a preconceived fantasy that she had of exactly what she was looking for. And this wasn't exactly it. She didn't think that she would be getting married and starting a family in a duplex, a shared house with somebody else. So is it a nice to have or a need to have?
Yeah, that's a great point. Go ahead.
Yeah, and hopefully we can find some more information out, just because there's still a lot of like blanks, because we don't know like if she's got capital saved or any other type of assets, right, or what else. So the picture is like not that complete. But I think the big takeaway is just you can tell you're getting bad advice if someone's just kind of like shooing you off a little bit. So in sales, we kind of have a saying where there's two type of questions. There's a legitimate buying question, and then there's a go away question, right? So, if someone's interested, they'll ask you legitimate buying questions. If someone asks you what your customer service number is, that's kind of a go away question, right? So, when you're soliciting advice from somebody, and it doesn't matter if, soliciting advice from us or soliciting advice from, again, like a Dave Ramsey, you always want to make sure that, they're asking you more of those questions that are more of interest and more engaging. Otherwise, the advice is not going to hold that much salt.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, he went to the wrong platform to ask for that advice. Because the first thing I was like, you and your fiance need to sit down and talk about it and really lay it down on how it would look if we lived in the duplex or if we lived in this nice house. And Hubs, you brought up a great point that I'm not going to call it an unrealistic expectation. But a lot of girls women, they have it in their mind of what it's going to be like that first day after you get married, and it's a little bit different. And some roll with the punches, and some take it as it comes. Some take those unrealistic expectations as a sign to move on. It's not even their fault. You think about it when a young woman grows up. She's told she's a princess. She's told she's beautiful, and she probably is. I'm not saying she's not. Even if she's, 4'10", 160 pounds, you're beautiful. You're a princess. You just that. And I didn't even say that to be funny. But when she tells her parents,
I'm sorry. I'm just
like
thinking about it. No, like what would a 4'10", 160 pound woman look like?
Yeah, it's go to Peru. You'll see them. But what do the parents say? That's great. You want to be a school teacher, but you want the G-Wagon and the mansion and all that. You deserve it, so you'll have it. For us young men growing up, we all want to be a fireman at some point in our life. Me, it was kindergarten. It came and went really quick. But no matter what it is, what do your parents tell you? Do good in school, work hard, and you'll achieve it. There's two different narratives there. And I'm not saying you should tell a girl, you should work hard and you should be a welder, but it's almost like those unrealistic expectations are ingrained at an early age, if I'm making sense.
Yeah. In this guy's particular scenario too, like there's the big question that remains a mystery, right? Is because sometimes context is everything, right? So it's like, well, this duplex that he has, right? Yeah, he has a duplex and he owns an income generating asset, but maybe it's in a rough part of town that's really terrible. So she's like, hey, I don't want to live in this part of town and raise our potential children here. We should probably move. Yeah. So there could be a reason why it's so cheap, right? So I think that's something that I really wish he would have gotten into a little bit more to kind of explore that. Because if it's a great duplex, clean and pristine, in a very nice part of town, it's like, oh yeah, no, that's definitely a situation where it's like, hey, let's make sure we reevaluate this. But if there's a broader concern of,
I'm glad you said that, Josh, because what is the first thing that Ramsey jumped to? It's a bachelor pad. She don't want the smells.
Right.
Are you just, you're just jumping to that conclusion. Even the young man said, he was like, it's nice. It's not a bad place.
And what does that even mean? Like, because if you're going to say it that way, okay, fine. Then I'll go to the other part of the duplex and then I'll rent out the previous one. Like what is he trying to say?
Yeah. He basically stereotyping this young man that it's just a piece of shit. That's the only way you can say it. I'm far more older, but you could say, would you say the same thing about me in the house that I have? Because every time a woman walks into my house, they're actually pretty impressed. But I thought that a good compromise would be, okay, baby, let's do this. Let's have the first kid. We got 2 bedrooms. I'll tell you what, with all the money we make from the marriage, it's going to be a lot. If you want to go on a honeymoon, we can do that. We'll from the wedding, we'll take that money. It's all yours. You decorate this place however you want it, and it's all yours. You do it. We'll paint. We'll put new flooring down. Whatever you need to do, we'll do that. But in return for that, the first 2 years of our marriage, let's do this and let's plan while we don't have a financial strain. I think that would have been probably the best advice I could have heard if I was in this young man's situation. Because I'll go back to it. You could tell by the way he was talking, he knew in his mind what he wanted. He just could not convey that to her to get her to understand his point of view.
That was brilliantly put. I really like that, Kevin.
Yeah, very well put. I don't know. I got nothing to follow it up with. I'm just like, it was so well put.
Yeah, no, it's a great, and again, it comes back to what I was saying. Like, is this a nice to have or a need to have?
Yeah.
And when you can then phrase the option, like if the buyer, in this case, her, if the buyer doesn't love what's being offered and wants like an upgrade, showing them like what the lesser product, duplex versus a standalone 3-bedroom house, if you can show her how it can still be a benefit to her, and it can be an experience, it can be a fun thing that you guys do together. Like, imagine that, like on a Sunday afternoon, like painting walls with her, and just like the memories that you guys are going to start to form in this new marriage. Like, you can paint that narrative. And again, being a good storyteller is everything in dating. Like, as a man, like women love it. The imagination is their G spot. It's not, yes, maybe it's physical, but it's, the mind is everything. And so if you can paint this picture of this perfect, happy marriage that you guys are going to have as you're building up in life together, that's going to sell it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that at the end of the day, that's probably what this young man's having a problem with, is finding the words to take what he's got here to put it here to make her understand. Mm-hmm. And I wish to God he would see this and know that, hey, you've got guys out there that are on your side, buddy. And this is not it's my way or the highway. You know, like if you would have talked to me 2 years ago when I was in my red pill phase, you know, it would have been like, bro, you're the leader of the relationship. What you say goes, and yeah, you would already be divorced. But you know, with the evolution that a lot of us, even in this room, have come through to go through that phase to where we're at now. I mean, we can help people like this. We would probably give them better advice than a Dave Ramsey, or
we definitely ask some more interesting questions.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
like,
we would be there for you there to step away. We wouldn't sit here with our arms crossed saying, "Sail it, dude. Happy wife, happy life. You're just a dirty bachelor, and your house smells like dirty socks." Next, you know, and that's what we've created at the Men of Now, which is beneficial to a lot of people.
Yeah, like really actually diving into the core of what the issue is, or issues, right, are and could be, but also just, again, really like helping provide that more balanced perspective. And that's what's been great and awesome, and been great to see the guys do. Is just it's also surprising too, because it's like, you know, you think there's gonna be like the quiet person, and then it's like, nope, like, you know, they're chiming in on all these different things. So it's always cool to see like what different topics or subjects different folks wind up really like diving into, and really getting engaged with everyone.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of a video that I saw today, and it's a YouTube channel, but it talked about, you know, of course, you know, the big thing now is the gym chicks that are filming all the time, and you know, trying to put it on TikTok to make themselves look good. It's backfiring for most of them. So I mean, but it brought up a great point. You know, there used to be men's clubs. You know, there used to be men's only groups, and there still are. You know, you have the Masons, you have the Shriners, that kind of stuff, but a lot of young people don't even know about that. But I mean, you used to have men's only country clubs. But you can't do that anymore because of inclusion, and it even talked about the gym, that try to open up a men's only gym right now and see how quick that place is shut down because it's sued or this, that, and the other by women that can't be here. Now, women can have women's only gyms all day long. Now, they don't last more than 6 months because they don't bring in revenue. But the point that I'm getting to is now our men's groups are becoming online communities like we have at the Men of Now, and there's several others out there. And the great thing about the Men of Now is we're fairly new, but everybody, especially up in the upper echelon, we come from other groups that are very successful, and we bring a collaboration to this group that is going to make it very special. And for the guys that think, okay, well, women have to be included in anything, now that's what it's come to, is the online men's community that we do have meetups and that kind of stuff. It's not, we don't all live 5 blocks from each other, but that's the great thing about the internet. We all always have a quick and easy place to go.
Right. And that's what's so great about it too, is like, if I need advice on something specific, and then in my local community, I don't know somebody who has that advice. Like, for example, Josh does a lot of really interesting stuff with crypto, as well as he also does a lot of model photo shoots. How many model photographers do I know in my local community? So if I don't know anybody, I have access to somebody who can teach me about something that's like so unique. And, you know, that's really what's just is fantastic about the connection to the online communities. And then, as you said, with the meetups, being able to come together, it's just awesome. It's just development every day while having fun doing it.
Yeah, it's just a great spot for, you know, again, guys to like probe other guys, or, you know, ask other questions to other guys, you know, kind of pick their brains a bit, to, you know, help them out with their situations and their scenarios. So, you know, in reality, it's, you know, technically it's a men's group. In reality, it's more of like just a mentorship collective, where it's, you know, community mentorship from all different angles and sides.
Yeah. And that's something we as men have lost, even unbeknownst to us, because we didn't know there was things like that. And now that it's coming back in a big way, especially with online communities like we have at the Men of Now, and there's a lot of other great ones out there, it's going to turn around where men can start learning how to be that leader that the women really want, or the pillar in the community that the community needs, that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go through the hard times create hard men scenario. We all know it, but let's end the soft times as quick as we can.
Oh, there's going to be some fantastically hard individuals made very, very soon. So over the next few years. So, but yeah,
and the faster we make them, the better it will be. You know, you don't want to have to go through what our ancestors went through. Their hard times were far more than we will probably ever experience, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm not fighting saber-toothed tigers. I'm sorry, I'm not, guys. Not that guy.
All right, well, guys, let's go ahead and wrap up here. Final thoughts on the clip and why maybe sometimes you take leadership from someone, but you got to learn how to vet their advice and not just take their word as stone.
Sure. So definitely, I have to say, like, when you're seeking advice, seek it from at least 3 people. Excuse me. Seek advice from at least 3 people. Even if they're, somebody on the internet or somebody famous that you don't know personally, like, that's okay. Get some advice from Dave Ramsey, and then get some advice from your father, and then get some advice from a best friend, and take that advice, all those different forms of advice, and kind of blend them together and see what actually fits your own life's narrative. So I think that sometimes people give advice from their perspective, not necessarily putting themselves in the shoes of the person asking for that advice. And so I think that that's incredibly important. And that was what was really lost in that call there. I think that there was a second piece that I had to this, but that's really the most important thing that I pulled out of the entire thing. And I mean, look at it this way. Even just getting involved, like, I've been in so many different communities, and I'm so happy to be a part of the Men of Now. But in these other communities, not all of them were successful for me, or not all of them actually like leveled me up in any area whatsoever. It was just wasted money. Yeah. But through going through so many different communities, being involved with so many different people, learning so many different things from so many different ways of thinking, really transformed me, and it was worth every penny. I think back to different communities I was a part of where I spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars just to be a part of it, to learn nothing and have it be a waste. But it wasn't a waste because it, again, taught me how to vet for that good advice. So that's one thing that, like, even with the Men of Now here, you could sign up for $75 a month and you will not end up selling your duplex, buying a more expensive home, and burning money, leading to financial ruin. So is $75 worth it to go ahead and save yourself from the turmoil that this young man is going to experience? I would say so, but maybe I'm the crazy one.
No, I think you're absolutely correct, because dividends aren't always paid back in cold hard cash. Knowledge is the one thing that can't be taken away from us. So that, I mean, sometimes you trade money for knowledge, but doing it at an Ivy League college now is proven to be insignificant. So sometimes you got to look at the dividends you get on your investment that you're making yourself in a different way of saying, $75 a month, that's less than I pay in just, streaming accounts just to watch TV that I never watch, Right. What about you, Josh? What is, kind of like I asked us, when it comes to taking advice from other people, what would you say the most important thing is to know about?
Yeah, I mean, I would say take all of it, again, with a grain of salt, and kind of building on Huds's point. It's, you really have to curtail it and, figure out what does it mean for you and for your situation. Because again, I can give you all sorts of advice that can be the absolute greatest advice in the world for me, but it wouldn't work for you. Right. So you have to balance out all the different opinions. And again, you want to get different bits of advice from either people that are, mentors, or people that you look up to and respect. Or sometimes, hey, you might get a shocking bit of advice, right, from someone that's just like, what, I wouldn't trust this person with whatever, blah, blah, blah. But actually, they give me like something like pretty profound. I think Ed Lattimore, he had a really, really good quote where he said, if the message is of value and substance, then the messenger is inconsequential. So, something to just kind of keep in the back of your mind, where sometimes you can get some really, really good advice of what to do or not to do from some of the most unlikely of sources. So again, take all of this, and really what it comes down to is you have to break it all down and figure out what you're going to do with it for you. Because at the end of the day, nobody else out there is going to live the consequences of your decisions. You have to live with the consequences of your decisions. So that's really the best bit of advice from stranger on the internet, right? But that's the best bit of advice that I can give you, right? Or my thoughts or my feedback on that. Take that advice and see what it really means for you, and take it all with a bit of a grain of salt, because we're all human. We're not perfect.
No, and that's perfect, because we did have a show on, the adversity show of you're responsible for your reaction, but you can't help the consequences that come with your reaction.
Yep.
The one thing I would say, especially to this young man, his gut was right on point. So when your gut is telling you, don't even seek advice. Go with your gut. If you have to learn the lesson the hard way, it'll probably be the best lesson you ever learned. Because if this kid goes with the advice he was given, this is going to be a very, very, very hard lesson that he's going to learn in the long run. And his new wife. Because it's not all peaches and cream, especially if you can't make mortgage payments and you can't make car payments and your insurance lapses because you can't afford it. So that's, if your gut's telling you to do it, listen to the advice of your gut and your instinct before you take it to somebody else. And I think that's the one thing this young man did wrong.
Well, I mean,
his gut was right on.
I would make a tweak to that, where I would say, it's good to you can listen to your gut for sure, but it's also good to seek out advice as a sanity check. So just because sometimes in your gut, you kind of feel really strongly, but something else is holding you up. So it's good to get a little advice just to get a little bit of a sanity check, where you either reaffirm what your gut's telling you, or you can be like, yeah, you know what, my gut is telling me this one thing, but something's a little bit off. At least now I know what that off thing is, so I can make the absolute best decision for myself. So you can use it as a bit of a sanity check. That's the only little asterisk that I would add to what you said. But I thought what you said was pretty spot on.
No, that's a great point too, because sometimes you do get that aha moment when your gut's telling you one thing, or your mind, or you're thinking something, and then somebody will give you an anecdotal or even an empirical response, and it'll give you the aha moment before you make that mistake. So that's a great point. So does anybody have anything to add before we wrap up? We've been going for about an hour now. I think this was a great, and like I said before, anybody seeing this wasn't just throw shade at Dave Ramsey. I know a lot of people looked up to him. I looked up to him at some point, but I got what I needed from him. So thank you, Dave, for what you inspired me for. However, I have to move on, and seeing clips like this reassures me that my gut told me that I have to move on. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm putting him down, because this advice could have came from anyone. I would have had the same response. This was about the advice, not the person. I'm not discouraging anyone to watch, read, or listen to Dave Ramsey, but I felt that it's something we had to put out there.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you. And so before I go ahead and close this, just want to say, if you guys have anything like this that you want to go ahead and bring up and want us to discuss, by all means, go ahead and comment it down below. We love doing things like this. This was a little bit different. We don't typically look at a specific story or a specific video, but I love the commentary stuff, and what can we learn from, different people that are big people in different spaces. And I think that it was so interesting seeing somebody who's, a financial wizard giving certain relationship and marriage advice, and what we can pick out of it. So definitely go ahead and comment or reach out to one of us if there's something you want us to discuss. And then, as always, you can see it down below. Go ahead and join the Men of Now community. We do too much. I can't keep track of it all. I just was looking at the calendar, and it's literally 3 different events a week, and it's just nonstop. And so if you're really looking to level up, definitely go ahead and join right there. Especially in this circumstance, instead of ruining your life today, you can go ahead and succeed and continue succeeding. So with that, thank you guys. We'll see you next week.
Have a good one, guys. Talk to you soon.